All right, man, we're live.
It's cool.
Okay, how many weeks have you been an occupational therapist for?
It has been 7 weeks this week. So exciting.
How many billable hours are you on roughly per day now? How big is this
Um,
caseload getting now?
I'm close to about 30 clients on my caseload, and my billables this week were close to three and a half
Per
a
day?
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
it's getting it's getting
you're
busy.
getting to like that 75% sort of
Yeah,
level. Most
yeah,
companies are running at around 4.5 to 5 billable hours per day in NDIS, if I'm right.
yep, pretty
Um,
much.
that gives you time for documentation. It gives you time to regroup between community visits. Do you do in clinic as well?
Yes, we're doing clinic as well.
Yeah. What
Little
office are you
school.
working out of?
So it's handy. I'm working out of the CPU Cannington base.
Okay. Oh, cool. Nice.
We've got a few clinic rooms, which is awesome. We've got a sensory room, and we just got swings and all that extra stuff. And it's awesome.
How different is it going from student and always having that backup of your supervisor to bounce things off to now being the one responsible for therapy? I think we spoke about this before, but how does that feel to now being the clinician?
First couple of weeks, even the first couple of sessions we did, it was like when I was doing my case notes, I was like, "Who attended?" I'm like, "Nik Peshwani, occupational therapy student." I'm like, "No, I'm not a student anymore. I'm the clinician."
Yeah.
um, So moving into that sort of things, I was like, oh yeah, I'm the therapist now, I'm the clinician, and I have no one looking over me. It was a bit daunting, a bit scary, but at the same time, it allowed me space to figure out what my communication styles are, how I'm working with people, how I'm communicating with different clients. Someone who would love to just have a chat if I open the door, versus someone who I have to just sit with and wait for them to um, have their buy-in,
Yeah.
essentially. So like wait for them to initiate it, and then bam, we're in, and we go from there. But it's been a daunting experience for the first couple of weeks, but then it was fine. Then it's like it's getting better. Um, Whenever I'm asked questions, I'm able to confidently reply. If I know something, I'm happy to respond. If I'm unsure of something, I'm like, this is what I know. But whatever I don't know, I'm gonna circle back and send an email through to you or have it ready by the next time we catch up.
And that's one of the cool things that you can do in this space. Being able to know where your scope of practice is and know where your expertise are, and be able to go, hey, I know this is an area that I have some experience in, but I can't give you an answer for it today. But I can give it to you next week, or I can email these things through to you and I can show you what resources we have. I just don't have it in my therapy toolkit today. Like you could be on a school visit, you could be on your fourth community visit for the day, and you've been dealing with traffic and you've got 30 emails waiting for you back at the office from plan managers and support coordinators chasing up functional assessments or something. And yeah, your mind can be overloaded. So yeah, being able to give space and not rush into things is one of the things that comes with experience. You don't have all the answers yet. You've got the degree. You know the basics. You've gone back to first principles to know that I can act in a therapeutic way in very different situations for different clients, and I'm going to reflect back on what they need at any one time. But that doesn't look like the same for everyone else, does it?
It's a bit all over the place with regards, not just at my clinic, but at different places where I've spoken to, and even new grads who've gone rural, like Darwin, Pilbara, aspirants who've like wanted to go back to their homes or just start new lives in the outback over east as well.
Yeah. It's it's really interesting the amount of information that starts coming your way when you're the clinician. And you won't see this until um probably until you've done probably 15 months in the role, because you have to kind of go through the cycle completely. So as an OT, you have like a therapeutic process, and most clinic practices are doing a pretty good job of establishing this. And it all comes back to how experienced of a clinician you are as well to follow the process. So you have a welcome meeting, you're onboarding a new client, and you have to establish goals for therapy. And from there, you start to implement assessment to see where a baseline is, and you start to see, okay, what are the goals for therapy, but what are the outcomes that we're searching for? And then we start to decide on, okay, what are going to be the therapeutic techniques that we put in place for implementation, and what are the review periods going to be, and how do we assess success, or when we need to redefine goals or switch goals. Until you've been through 5 of those, 10 of those, that's a murky process. And we'll touch on this as well, but how well you can document that welcome meeting can be make or break. Tell me about, spoke about this just before, but tell me about what you're doing at the transcription level for welcome meetings.
For welcome meetings, the way it works is there's a whole form, and there's it's all on the website itself, and there's like text boxes. So every bit of question or a query has a prompt, and there's a text box attached. And those are the basic information we would need, like who's the client, what life looks like, what are your strengths, what are your concerns, what are your areas you want to work on, what are the broad areas, and any specific details you have. What about education, work, home environment, your ADLs. ADLs is a whole separate section which with multiple different prompts. And as OTs, that's our bread and butter. We can dive right into it and use up all our time just for ADLs. So I like to get into ADLs last. I would do all the admin side of things, scheduling, service agreement stuff. And even for like families who are new to NDIS and it's their first experience with the scheme, they're like, we do not know. We had a phone call with the LSA and we were driving somewhere and the phone call was like 30 minutes. They gave us so much information. And
They sent
nothing.
you. Look. Here's the interesting thing about NDIS phone calls as well. They'll send you a text message an hour before it, going, in the next hour, you're going to get a call from the NDIS with no other context in it. It's terrifying. You go, what are they going to talk about?
Yeah, well, and one of the parents was like, yeah, we spoke for about 30 minutes, but I do not know what we spoke about. And I'm like, right, that's fine. Let's take the first 30 minutes. Instead of doing all the process in the back end and getting all the information from you, I'm going to take this time and sit with you because I know it's been a rough time going through the diagnosis process, going through public, private, going through the psych, the speech, the pediatrician, all those bits and bobs and jumping through hoops. And it's taken some parents 2, 3, 4 years getting the diagnosis. So I'm like, I don't want to rush you. I'll take the first 30 minutes. We can just talk about that. And that's fine. And I'll help you understanding the NDIS plan, processes, and how we work. And
But
then we can get it.
there is like trauma to unpack just before you even start any level of therapy. And I'm not too sure what it's like with Super U, but a lot of times we don't actually have the client in for the welcome meeting. We have the parents, because there has been so much analysis going into the entire thing. And you have to like re-examine all of that once again to a new person. Yeah, that can be like trauma reducing on its own before you even like build therapeutic rapport. Let's find out everything about you and all your deficits. That's rough. That is really, really rough. But yeah, keep going.
No, it is rough, and sometimes parents can get emotional, and maintaining that space for them, allowing them to be like, no, this is your experience, and you don't need to be sorry about it. It's okay to have a small cry if you need to. It's okay to just sit there for a bit, gather yourself, and then you can keep going. it's, for me, I found the balance between sometimes parents need reaffirmation that yes, their kids has deficits, but come on, we've looked at all the strengths. Your kids get at like so many things. And you've listed off a bit of extra bits. You're like, oh, he loved Titanic. And because of the love of Titanic, he looked at who found the Titanic and then went and found the information of what he did after and all the battleships he found. And now your kid's interested in battleships and wars and history. I'm like, that is amazing. That's a strength on itself, building on
Mm.
the information they already have.
Yeah, you can start to talk straight away about look at this person's executive function skills within the context of their special interest. Look at what happens when we remove the demand of like a school environment and things that they're being forced to study, compared to when somebody has an intrinsic motivation to study, and
Exactly.
how they actually get to demonstrate their intelligence. So often, I'll get referrals come through for somebody who's completely underperforming in a school environment, or they might be in full school refusal. Their school can't at the time, and they're only playing video games or things like that. Common with my caseload. But then you see the whisk scores through the roof. Like, so you see somebody who's like absolute top tier, and this is very common with my caseload with pathological demand avoidance. Some of the most strategic thinkers alive, but their anxiety, their perfectionism, their rejection sensitivity is so high that in the context of a school environment, their performance drops. So they don't get to demonstrate it. So they don't get to show like their intelligence level, their strategic planning, their actual interests, because the environment wasn't set up for them. If it's a mismatch between environment and performance, and we can talk all day about different OT models, but you get to see it repeatedly once you're in that clinical role.
It is perfectionism is like a massive thing. This kid you're saying cannot do schoolwork has already gone through 100 scenarios in his head, and he cannot find the one he wants to recreate. And if he does find the one and he's attempted to recreate, and any small thing has gone wrong, he's just gonna close up. He's just gonna stop.
Yeah.
And being able to communicate that with parents and for them to be able to understand their own kids better, that's been massive for me. I'm working towards something, even if in the session I just played chess with the kid. But in playing chess, he shared how his school day was, how what he struggled with, what he
Mm.
really enjoyed. I'm like, he's not done that before. And
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And
Like
look,
he's at that
we spoke about
space.
this in our last catch up, but that ability to walk beside somebody and the conversations that can come with that, like you spoke about a client that you just played some video games with, and people go, "You just played video games with somebody," and they're not realizing you were allowed into their world, that they have control over the sensory environment. It's consistent, and they are able to unmask for that period. If that's the way that they're able to unmask, then go for it. A lot of the times, as the clinician, you're not just delivering intervention for psychoeducation, or you're doing like a skill building thing. You may very well be holding space for somebody, allowing them that period to unmask and develop something in their own time. And that could be just as powerful as any level of psychoeducation or skill building activity that you do. Uh, it's really, really cool to see. And now you're 7 weeks into it. How different does it feel to be on prac compared to in the role and billing?
On track, always had a supervising therapist with us, as the guidelines state. But having that caseload, managing everything about that client, writing reports up, doing assessments, I still had like in the back of my head, I'm like, it's okay. It's a place where I may make a mistake, and my supervisor might step in, and that's okay. But it gave me a learning opportunity, and I was like, okay, I'm not billing for this time, so I'm gonna put in all this extra effort so that even though I'm not billing, they're getting use out of my time. But now I'm at a stage where being the therapist, I'm like, yes, there's more responsibility, there's more accountability for me. And I have to capture the time very efficiently and effectively. And I'm like, if a parent wants resources, rather than sending an email, following that up, asking them, I'm just going to ask you today in session, what do you need? Print it out, make it, have it ready the next time you're here. So I can give it to you in your hand and you know what it is. I've explained it to you and nothing's getting lost over communication. I'm like, I want to use our time as effectively, even if it means 10 minutes of parent coaching at the end and 5 minutes to recap at the end. I'm more than happy to do that because they're going to take that home and be able to replicate it every day. Whereas I'm just seeing you once every fortnight for an hour, and that's not a lot of time.
You've got to remember though, just the mere fact that you're observing somebody and that you're coming in with the frame of here's me with my education background and my professional role. I am entirely dedicated to you for these 50 minutes, however long the session goes for, to observe and to influence. And a lot of times you don't need to say a thing to influence behavior. You're just being the person observing, and that's going to change behavior. They will change their behavior in between sessions in anticipation for the next session. It is so powerful just existing as the therapist within that relationship. And the longer that you do it, the more you're able to push down that professional self-doubt that you first have as the clinician to realize just existing for a lot of these people is enough to influence a change of behavior, especially when like we do consider things like autism spectrum, pathological demand avoidance, ADHD. A lot of times we look at it from a funding perspective of here's a deficit-based thing, here's the medical model. But a lot of the times they're doing just fine. It's the rest of the world that is creating the barriers. So if our role then becomes let's hold space for them to find a way to start working within existing systems, even if you're not trying to change them, that can be enough. You could just be that translator between the outside world and being able to scaffold. It's really, really interesting. Can we go back to documentation?
Yes.
Okay, so 7 weeks in, you've recorded plenty of case notes now. You have transcripts from welcome meetings, things like that. As the therapeutic process continues, you're going to have goal setting meetings, review periods. It becomes very, very important when you go into those meetings or that you're providing a therapy update to the rest of the clinical team or to NDIS, how important is to record it well from the start.
For sure. It is, it's been a cornerstone for my practice personally as well, that I want to ensure I'm getting all these documentations right as I go. So when I catch up with my supervisor next week, I'm going to run through what a therapy intervention plan looks like. And I've got all the SMART goals ready. I've got everything ready for a couple of clients as well, because I've done goal setting. I'm like, okay, you want to work on socialization, but what does it look like for you? And what steps can we take? How can we break it down into something which we can achieve in the next 3 months? Okay, you used the public transportation before? Easy. We can catch the bus. Even the small socialization or being in a space where there's other people present is a big thing for you. Awesome. You don't have to interact. Hop on a bus and I'll catch you at a cafe and let's have a coffee there. And your only goal there is to go up to the counter and order a coffee. That is all. And we can just chill and have a coffee and chat about everything live. And we can break it down to a 3-month place where we can look at the bus route. We can drive around, have a look at what the bus route would look like, go sit at the cafe one day, so you know what the cafe is like. And at the 2.5, 3 month mark, you can go do that with your partner, go do that with your sister, go do that with your support worker, and we'll just catch up at the cafe. I'll meet you directly there and talk about about your experience. I'm like, awesome. We've broken it down. This is what socialization looks like. But in 3 months, we're going to achieve this much. We'll look at Christmas dinner 2026. We don't want to host it 2025, and that's fine.
Yeah, like even just going to a cafe, like you can look at different things for what was the barrier to participation, and it could have been the social anxiety of requesting something in a noisy cafe using voice communication. And what if we made modifications for that and go, well, this person was able to participate if they had noise cancelling headphones on and they'll show an image of what they wanted to order. And that could have been the barrier. And it's incredible to see the transformation when you're able to say to somebody, you can participate if we make these modifications and we go towards what your strengths are as a person. And they're able to go, oh, wait, we're allowed to do that? Yeah, of course you're allowed to do that. I've got clients where I don't know what they look like. I don't know what their voice is like because their communication preferences are so strong of they have rejected school, they've rejected therapists, they've rejected all outside help just because they didn't want to be on camera or have their voice heard. But I come along and go, okay, well, we can communicate in game via text. Like that's a valid form of communication and we can develop a therapeutic rapport from there. And that was enough to get it over the line. Just stating that you can have a communication preference and have that assertiveness can be enough to increase participation. That is fundamental to my new referral forms that I'm going through as well. Of the first thing that's on there is what is your communication preference? It's it could be that basic.
So do you have a drop-down menu there? Like texting, speaking, using a device? Or is it like something people can type in?
All three. So they can go like camera on, camera off, text only. There's like 6 options of like
Right.
therapists can use voice chat, but client can use text-based. Both can only use text-based, like things like that.
Right.
That can
Awesome.
be just having that autonomy can be enough as well. Just understand, like I've said this before to people about my booking system as well. People, I've got many clients who would prefer to stand in a burning building, than call me or text me to cancel an appointment because they had something on during the day. I had to completely rebuild my records management and booking system to transfer over so I could give them a client portal that they could cancel and reschedule appointments from the client portal. They didn't have
Yeah.
to text me. It's that much of a thing that I barely ever get a cancellation. It's not that. It's knowing that they can and having that autonomy is enough to either retain clients or gain clients. Yeah, just that sort of thing. Accommodation for participation can be that big.
It's so cool, like having clients having that autonomy, being like, yep, this is how I'm going to communicate. And they've rejected therapists in the past, and you come in and you're like, you're right, we can talk over chat, then that's fine, let's do it. And I'm like, that's so cool. And that I have not seen that in the space before.
Yeah, and think about it as well to the clinician's perspective. I mean, I'm autistic. It's highly likely that the majority of the clinicians that I hire in this business, just because of the way it's set up, will be neurodivergent as well. Having the camera on for the clinician is also taxing. Having the clinician have to drive in traffic to get to a clinic or to a community visit is taxing. If I can have my clinicians set their schedule and have on the schedule as well the type of type of appointments can be booked on each day, they can build in their own energy management based on that as well. So for a lot of my days, I can set on the online booking system, only allow gaming therapy on that time. That means I know I don't have to have my camera on that day. Do you know how powerful that is to not have that pressure of monitoring body language and things like that from a clinician's perspective? You have happier clinicians. You have better suited clients because they're in their own space on their own terms. And you have clinicians who have set their own schedule completely on what type of session is going to happen on each day. So Fridays might be gaming therapy only, or gaming, and but it's because they know that that pressure is going to be off. Or they might have days where it's only welcome meetings or it's only functional assessments, and we can set the sensory environment for those days completely. Like the difference of being able to work at your own pace on a report with the lights are dimmed and you're in your comfortable clothes. Tell me about this. Tell me about this. I know I've heard this on your podcast.
Oh, so good. Having the ability to just pop into a room and be like, lights too much. It's in the afternoon. It's after like 1 p.m. I've been on the road in the sun. I'm like, nah, can't do lights. Turn it off and dim my laptop screen to the lowest. I'm like, yes, got my headphones on. If I had a hoodie on, I'd just look like a goblin just typing away on my laptop. um, but even just that, having a room which is you can control the thermostat, lower the temperature, make it warmer. I'm a cold person, but I'm just saying make it warmer to be inclusive. But having that ability to do those things, it's awesome. And having the ability to swap my uniforms out. Someday I may not feel like wearing a uniform. I can just pop on a polo and go to work, and that's fine. I can swap to the t-shirt versus the polo. I can swap to shorts versus pants. It's awesome. And I always like to wear fun socks because it's not just fun for me, but fun for everyone who sees it. I have avocado socks. I have avocado smiling. I have eggs and bacon. I have banana, watermelon, flamingo. I can keep going, but having all those sensory needs for me is awesome. And being able to be in the clinic, I'm like, yo, it's lunchtime. There's a cafe down the road. Can we walk? I need a walk to regulate myself, and we can get lunch. I
Yeah.
need some. I just need some fresh air and be out. Just not think about work for like 30 minutes, and then
So
I'm okay to come back.
have you done much work with the positive behavior support teams?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So have you seen for any of your clients or in any of your pracs, the things for the functional behavior analysis?
I haven't come across any functional behavior analysis. No, I have seen like PBS reports on what it looks like.
Yeah. Some
But
of the things in there are really cool, and it's given me a framework to work off for understanding people's neurotypes. So
yeah, nice.
in PBS land, they looked more at the behaviors of concern. I don't quite go that far for that because I don't need to. I look at high risk and low risk scenarios for people to see what their spoon cost is. So
Yeah,
if
right.
I think of a clinician or I think of what I do for myself, and I go, okay, what are going to be the high spoon costs for me as a therapy practice owner,
Mm,
clinician? And I go, well, I know that writing a functional assessment is a very high spoon cost. The amount of analysis that goes into those to think about things in a strategic way from a funding perspective, from a legislation perspective, for it to not be overly confrontational and to be because they are inherently deficit based and delivering that information is very tough.
yeah.
Compared to a gaming informed therapy session where we might be playing Roblox or Sea of Thieves or something like that, and we're working on teamwork, social skills, executive function, that's a very low spoon cost.
Yeah.
So if we start looking at the preferences for a clinician and we go
Mhm.
beyond some of the basics and we go, okay, a high risk scenario over the course of the week, we go, this person's sensory preferences are this person's executive function style are these. What are we doing from the practice ownership side to make sure that
Mhm.
we're not burning our clinicians out, which is going to be affecting our clients as well. So
Yeah.
if we even go as far as to say, for each of our clinicians, have we got a sensory profile on board? Have we done a
Right.
Brown's EFA on board? Have we looked at what their preferences are for communication style in when we're doing supervision?
Yeah.
Can we deliver supervision in a way that's safe for them? So what I'm starting to work on now is, can we deliver it in terms of what their favorite anime is, or if they understand the analogies from Winnie the Pooh, can I deliver it like that? Or are they just
Right.
purely metric based? Let's find a
Mhm.
way that decreases that rejection sensitivity and perfectionism um, based on what their actual needs are, not what is best for the practice. And being very, very aware of how different each person's neurotype is. I've done
Sure.
many now, unmasking autism assessments for people. This is kind of what I've now sort of specialized in. And the more that you do it, the more that you get to see what is the spoon cost for each person is very different to see what is going to be spoon intensive compared to some other people. I know for myself, community visits, time on the road, those transitions are taxing as anything. I know that being at home, being able to set my work schedule to not have appointments before 11 a.m., be able to build in break times around meal times, they can make a dramatic difference to how many billable hours I can do in a week, but also not be ruminating at night because I can actually relax and things like that. So yeah, the more that you can set up the environment for somebody, like how much of a difference is that going to make?
It's massive. Like for me, I think I've got a day where I'm like clinic visits only. Driving is taxing for me. Being on the road, managing traffic. Like I know some people like it because that's their downtime. They can just shut off, shut down. I'm like, great, that works for you. Awesome. So they love long drives. They're like, yep, give me clients who are like 30 minutes away. So I can just be on the road for 30 minutes, shut down, listen to a podcast, listen to music, or just be in silence, whatever works for them, talk to family. Um, and yeah, that works for them. But for me, if I'm driving 30 minutes one way somewhere, as soon as I get there, I'll need 5 minutes just to myself to gather myself. I'm like, this was a long drive. I just need to sit in silence for 5 minutes before I go in. Because if I'm running on the dot, I get there at 10 a.m. and the session's at 10. I'm like, I am not regulated myself. I'm not going to be the best therapist for you now. At 10:05, yep, I'm your guy. But at 10, I'm not. I have just dealt with people on the road and I am not ready.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's something I'm really trying to think of now as a practice owner and me being the one who takes responsibility for my clinicians there. Like, because I really think about this, having gone through the insurance process for setting up work cover, am I creating a safe work environment for them? And that goes beyond the physical safety, but am I being adaptable to their neurotype? So it's something I really think about.
It is such small things. You're like, oh yeah, I'm just driving out. But it's not just driving.
Mm.
It's wrapping your stuff up in the office, shutting your laptop off, whatever you were doing. Screen shut off, so it shuts off in your brain. Like visually, it's not there anymore. It doesn't exist. Be it a report, be it your case note from yesterday, be it a resource you were making for someone. It's shut down now. Grabbing your bag, leaving the office. Forgot my coffee cup. And that's going to bug you for the rest of the day. Getting to your car, if you have less fuel, you're like, gotta go to the server, head on the road, someone cut you off, someone's in traffic, you're running late, the maps are telling there's a blockade ahead and you have to reroute your way there. And you're like, oh my God, I am not ready for any of this to happen. But it can
Yeah.
happen. On the off chance it does happen, it may just be once, but it sets a negative tone for everything then. It just becomes a way that, yep, if I'm leaving on time, like just right on the dot, things are gonna go wrong. So I need to start leaving 10 minutes early. And that 10 minutes becomes 15 minutes, and that can just keep expanding from there on. And then you're like, okay, I am not meeting my billables because I'm not able to fit enough sessions in, or I am staying too long, or I'm starting very early, I'm finishing very late. And
Yeah.
it's just a downward spiral. And I'm like,
And like, if we just go back to some first principles ago, if I've got a more regulated clinician, they're able to do their case notes faster. They're able to recall more from sessions because they didn't have to deal with all that additional sensory and social sort of things that
yeah,
other ones might have. So it really is interesting to watch my practice over the course of a year where I was doing 1,200 kilometers a week, a month of travel
yeah,
compared to now where I'm doing maybe 1 or 2 home visits a month. But I'm still doing 80
yeah,
appointments a month. Like, but I'm doing it a completely different way for energy management. I'm still doing similar sort of billable hours per month, but I'm seeing more people and I'm more present for them as well.
Yeah.
And they're in an environment where they don't need to do the transitions to get into a clinic for that one afternoon spot that might be available. That's another thing that I think about as being in WA. We're at a pretty big advantage over here because I see so many people on the East Coast now. You think about the scheduling nightmare that is getting a 4 p.m. after school appointment with a clinic-based OT. How many spots in like Perth are available at any one time for that specific spot? And it's not existent. And then I
Yeah.
come along and go, well, I'm on the West Coast. I'm 2 hours or 3 hours behind you guys. That's my
Easy.
lunchtime. Yeah, I can fit you in with ease, and I can do 5 of those in a day because compared to that one that a clinic-based clinician can, mine are online. I just switch windows at the end of my
Yeah.
appointment. It's it's really cool to see like how many more people get access to services just because of the way it's set up. And because it's all online, I'm able to give them all that autonomy for scheduling as well. To say like, I'm not going to box you into the same appointment at each time. I don't need to. If you need to change to Tuesday this time, or that you only want to do school holidays, that's fine. I've got the booking system open for the next 3 months. You just book in the sessions that you want, and if you need to cancel, you cancel. It's already on. Like you've got the power. Just click. Maybe leave me a note to say that we just had to change because of a doctor's visit, but just let me know you're okay.
For sure.
So that's been really
Yeah,
cool.
that's awesome. I have really enjoyed being in the office personally. I'm like, whenever I've done a
As
session or
a new graduate, and
as a new grad, yeah, I'm like, as soon as I've come up, I've finished a session, I've come back from a home visit or a school visit or just a community visit somewhere, and I come back in the office. I'm like, I see all these people I can debrief with. I see
yeah,
all these people I can just be like, yo, you got 5 minutes? I just need to talk. I just need 5 minutes, you know? Have a couple of questions I want to bounce off, share my experience. Um, and this is what it looked like. I may not want answers. I may not want
but
their professional input. I may not want anything. I just need to just get it
so
out of me.
one of the big things that I'm really starting to promote now is who's holding space for you. I think back in September last year, I didn't have that. I was working completely solo. I had no sleep whatsoever because 4-month-old baby and working 6, 7 days a week trying to get this practice off the ground. So I got my own support worker, and she lives in Sydney. Like she sits there, smiles and nods, and like she was there to let me info dump, make sure everything went on the transcription so I could sort through the ideas later. But she was there being present. And that is enough for so many people. Just allowing you to have space for that little bit and a regular thing within your schedule as well was really important. So I would see her on Monday or Friday mornings, depending on what I had for appointments. And I knew I had time blocked that time as well to know, all right, she's going to be there just so I can get my invoices done that I didn't want to do over the weekend. Like they might be had to do some manual invoicing or something. I didn't have my automated system working, or that case note that I'm trying to finish off, or that email I didn't want to reply to. Like overcoming that resistance is huge, and just having those people around you as supports to allow you to hold space for you and allow you to exist can be so big. You're holding space for so many other people. And you've got to remember that when you've got 30 people on your caseload now, and it becomes you holding space for them. And there's a there's an element to that is a spoon cost, even though it's hidden. So yeah, having your support network is huge.
A question on that. How would you create a space for that for your clinicians moving forward that we need to hold the space for you? Because for me, thinking that I'm holding space for these people is just non-existent. I'm like, yeah, I got to do that. That's just an intrinsic thing. Like, I just have to do this. It's not something which registers to me as putting in spoons or putting in the work, because that's just something like I can't think of that as anything I'm doing. It's just something which happens. And that is taxing, yes. That is using the spoons, yes. But for me, I can't objectively see that, oh, I'm doing this for people. It's just me being me. For me, it's just that. And how do I differentiate between being that, okay, I'm doing it therapeutically, I'm doing it for you, versus just me being me? If that question makes sense.
Yeah, and we really start to look at some of the things from that unmasking autism sort of stuff. And we go, here's the high spoon costs, here's the low spoon costs, but what are we also doing for our restorative periods as well? Are we in safe mode, or are we in flexible mode where spoons are being used up? And what are we doing? Are we going out bouldering? Are we doing some socialization to regenerate spoons as well? So we need to be able to differentiate between things that are taxing and things that are restorative. So they need to be built in. And one of the good things about having like that resistance breaker sort of person in your life to hold space for is that you get to do some things like, okay, what are you doing this week for occupational balance? Are you booked in to make sure that you've got time to play video games, to connect with other people, and to have restorative periods, and not just be in this mode of holding space for other people? So these things have to be built in. If you don't have that occupational balance, then you are on the fast track to burnout, 100%. Being the clinician, you think, well, I can do this forever. I'm just talking to people, but no, that's you're 7 weeks in. You're not 3 years in. It's it has an accumulative effect. Because something is going to happen in one of those sessions that will stick with you, that you're going to just keep thinking about. And that spoon cost gets higher and higher the more that you want to take on more responsibility. And that's one thing you do need to remember. You are now in a position of serious responsibility as somebody's clinician. And this is a long-term role that you're in. So yeah, making sure that you have the space to unpack things, having the space for restorative periods and restorative activities, and making sure they're well defined as well. And some of the other things that you can do, make sure people are you're able to actually communicate what your needs are in any given moment. So often I'm working with people who don't have firm boundaries around them. They didn't develop those in childhood, which means their professional boundaries and their like personal life, there's not a lot of differentiation between that. So being able to communicate what your needs are and be assertive about it comes from having a really good understanding of what your needs actually are. So being able to do some analysis on alexithymia and interoception to know what your signals are, and being able to communicate those early warning signs to other people can be really important. So other people, you will see this more when you're working with people with PBS on board, but the people with things like what's it called? Zones of regulation. It can be very difficult for people to see what zone they're in at any one time, but it can be blindingly obvious to those around them who are hyper tuned to their small warning signs.
Right. Okay. Yep. Makes sense.
So being able to communicate what your needs are, maybe that is in a different sort of way, but other people need to be able to see where you're at in order to respond to your needs as well. So some really important things to be able to communicate. So like for some of my clients, I can look at their gaming play styles and go, all right, if this person has plenty of spoons on board, they're doing something co-op, they're doing voice-based communication in a multiplayer game, and they're doing some cool stuff. If their spoon cost is low, or their spoon inventory is low, then they're doing a solo game and they're just grinding for one single material and they're just trying to escape. Something like that. Like they're just in Minecraft looking for one single item and they're doing 16 hours a day of grinding for one single material so they can build one sort of resource. Although, yeah, it's really interesting the more that you get into the gaming based stuff of how much play style is reflecting what their energy capacity is at any one time. So you see things come out about gaming addiction and I go, ooh, maybe gaming is a symptom. It's not the addiction, it's the symptom that they're in autistic burnout or their sensory needs aren't being met. Their environment, their environment isn't conducive to participation. It's not that it's a gaming addiction. This is the one safe space for them that's predictable, that's meeting their sensory needs and their communication needs. Like, what are we looking at gaming as the problem or the symptom?
Very interesting. I'm like, yep, there was a period for a week where I just wanted to finish every mission, every trophy there was, and I did not play with anyone else, and I just played alone, and then I was fine. I was like, oh, okay. Now that makes sense. I'm like, yep. But then looking at what happened before, what was the things which led to that point where they were like, yep, I'm just going to be doing a solo play or I'm going to do co-op. The antecedent is really important.
Yeah, and the function behavior analysis will look very carefully at the antecedents of the behavior. So being able to look at things in high risk and low risk scenarios to say, like, we're setting the environment up for success. So these are the low risk scenarios compared to putting somebody with serious sensory needs into a area with bright overhead lights, lots of clatter in the background. We know that's a high risk scenario. That's much more prone to their behaviors of concern or their unwanted sort of things. So if we start building in to the entire environment, we set the environment for somebody for success rather than trying to change them, then all of a sudden we're starting to see increased participation and like lower stress levels. Like, a lot of times we don't need to do work on anybody for any one actual thing. That's asking them to change all the environment when we can change the environment to suit their needs.
Yeah. That's such a strong power to have as clinicians. And as an early new grad, I'm like, I don't know if I have the skills to do that. And it's caused me to think a lot of times after sessions, I'm like, I've just sat there and played with a kid, or I've just sat there and talked to this adult. And I'm like, I don't know if I've made any difference. I don't know if I've done anything. I don't know if it was therapeutic. But a part of me in my head is like, there's this tiny voice screaming, no, you can link it to these 5 different things. And yes, they've achieved things. They've been able to open up. They've been able to talk. They've been able to just bear that conversation sometimes. And I would then check in towards the end, like, how did that feel? Was that too taxing? Do we not want to do this again? Do we want to try it again? Maybe in a month's time, not in the next fortnight, but next month we'll try again.
And that's when you can start to see what are we doing on a small scale to change the environment that then we can then scale it. What is then going to be repeatable in different contexts? So if you see that, oh, this person communicates really well if we're doing a joint activity, instead of just being sitting across a desk from each other working on a worksheet, but we're doing an actual activity with like real life consequences and we can do instant feedback and co-regulation. Like, how different is that to like future therapy sessions? Like, you might not have done something therapeutic in that one, but you have exposed what is going to be effective in the next 20. So take a long-term view of these small successes because they can be repeatable across different contexts.
I think that's the perspective which new grads lack. Because I've spoken to a lot of others and everyone's in a similar-ish boat where they're like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, but I'm not sure how it's working. And I'm doubting my own capabilities. Like, I'm not sure if I'm doing anything therapeutic. I'm not sure I'm helping this person. Like, I don't know what I'm going to help them with. I'm walking into a goal-setting meeting knowing nothing. And it's sometimes good for us to have space for ourselves wherein we can talk about those things. And even for me, like I said, I walked out and I'm like, I have just done this. I don't know if it is. So I think it's a lot of perspective taking for us as well, using our theory of mind.
All right, let's talk about some things that we planned this weeks ago, and it was entirely based on accounting, I think.
Yes.
So not many people know my background. My first I think 10 years after dropping out of uni was full-time study in accounting, finance, sports science, economics, and librarianship.
Yes.
like I was just data driven. So if we think about accounting, and we can do this across a couple of domains for what we're also doing with clinical documentation, we go, we're collecting transactions. So we're transactions and documenting transactions about what happened within those transactions. That could be, we're collecting things like, here's the invoice amount for this specific thing, but that's driving all sorts of data. We're collecting the clinical notes from this session. We're collecting the intake forms and whatnot. All of these things are collecting data at every point. Accounting and bookkeeping are very closely related, but so is clinical notes and reports. Clinical notes in isolation don't tell you anything. Clinical notes combined with goal setting, with assessment data and well-written reports actually turn into useful information. Same with accounting. So there's cash flow statements, there's balance sheets and profit and loss statements. They're the main things that you'll work with accounting. All of it comes from recording many, many transactions and then turning into something that's useful for reporting. Same with finance. Finance is like the analysis of different ratios and future performance, expected performance related back to current situations that informs investment decisions. Like all the things are very, very related when you start to think across different domains. And not many people are realizing how powerful it is to be able to mobilize that data. Like the better that you can record the information from the start and the better that you can integrate it within a system to make it reportable and to turn it into something useful, the more powerful those inferences become. I'm going to let you sit with that for a second. And what are your thoughts?
Like in the grand scheme of things, when it's spoken, when it's communicated to you, when it's explained to you, it's like, yes, this logically all makes sense. Like, yes, when you related it to the analogy of case notes, it's not going to make sense to someone who picks it up, but a well-written report with assessments, with goals, with measurements, with objective measures and scales you've developed for just that purpose, for that goal, it's going to make so much more sense. It's the story. It's not just a side quest anymore.
So, okay, here's a way we can also reframe it. You are a brand new clinician, 7 weeks in. You haven't had to do a handover for a client that you've been seeing for 2 years to a new clinician. You've received handovers from other clinicians. Now think about that in those terms. What information did you need from that other person? You didn't need each of their case notes for every single session. You needed some really important information from the accumulation of years of case notes.
Yes. Yep. That makes more sense. Yep. That clicks.
So
yeah,
at any one
exactly.
point, I'm thinking, is information that I'm recording, have I done the correct metadata for it? Have I thought about the ontology for it? Have I thought about how this is going to be used in future reports and future information reporting to be useful for somebody else? Like, I don't want to waste people's funding, but I want to make sure that I'm capturing the right information for the right audience. And that at any one time, I can pull that information and turn it into something useful. And the better that you can mobilize, that information, the clearer your communication can be. So if I'm working with a client for a year, and then all of a sudden a parent that wants to have a review meeting, like, am I going to give them 52 weeks of case notes, or am I going to tell them about the most important things over time and how it's linked to future performance instead? So if we start thinking in terms of bookkeeping to accounting to finance and economics, we're thinking about case notes in very different ways. And we also think about what we've captured in goal setting welcome meetings. Yeah, lots of things. So
it's like linking this in with crypto. Like that's a similar experience for me with crypto. Like yes, I put some money in it 3 years ago. And since then I've just pulled money out. I haven't put any more in. And to be able to do that, I've had to maintain transactions on the blockchain. And it's not transactions which I can just see. It's just numbers. It's a hexadecimal code for a transaction which I have to go look into a screener to see what the transaction was. And in that, there's like multiple things happening, because in crypto, money just doesn't go from one thing to another. And I can't just see a number. It goes, there's a transaction fee, there's a service fee, there's a processing fee. There's like 10 different things happening in the back end to be able to fit that transaction into an algorithm, which then passes through a whole different devices and then it's processed.
Yeah.
So being able to navigate that, differentiate it, and then being able to pull that one line of data, being like, this is the important bit. I'm gonna make a track of this and note it down, and doing that for multiple different transactions over periods of time, especially when it's meme coin season and we're trading left, right, and center, and coins are going berserk and then just nosediving into the depths.
Here's a way we can even
So
deep
cool.
dive into that. Like my master's degree was in finance and banking. Like if very few people realize this, how much I've thought about crypto and the theory of money and economics over the years. So if we think about something like Bitcoin going back to maybe 2015, store of value, it's a really basic sort of thing. It's quite unique. At the time, at least, and now it can be repeatable in a few minutes. So there isn't actually that much special about it anymore. But if we go back to then and we go, all right, this is going to be the future of money. And then I'm having like too much coffee and thinking about it. And I'm going, yeah, but it's really slow and you can't see it and you can't lend it and you can't do all these sort of things that make money special. And then a few months later, they come out with the Lightning Network and you go, okay, now that makes sense. Now we have a store of value with an additional layer on top of it to go, now we have a transaction layer to make it money, to make it a transaction-based currency instead of a store of value and something to be hoarded. We really start to see the velocity of money and what the consequences of that are. So all of these sort of bits of data become very, very interesting when you have understanding of different things in different contexts. This is why I'm so intent on my clinicians having special interest, because the better you understand a different, completely unrelated piece of content, the better you're able to see relational things across domains. If you're just a specialist in clinical practice in this one area and you can't see outside of that, you're meeting people with completely different backgrounds, and like you need to be able to go back to first principles and apply it to all these new situations. So if I have somebody where they have a special interest that I've never heard of, but I can use the same therapy terms in their specific way, then it means that I can manipulate that information to be receptive to them. So yeah, the better that you can understand one concept and in a completely separate area, but draw parallels to it, the better you're able to replicate that process as well. So that's one of the cool things about being a librarian. We specialized in information literacy and being able to use research techniques for whatever their research topic was. It wasn't about me being a specialist in their area of AI or VR or nursing or whatever. It was understanding the research techniques for them to be able to gather the information from the correct sources, pass that information and run an inference of it and draw like good information from it. Like that was the important skill. It wasn't finding the right nursing book. It was about how to find
process. It's the back end.
It's the first principles of it. Yeah.
It's like, yes, crypto. Everyone sees meme coins. Everyone sees all these coins and like scammers and all this negative stuff about it. But at the same time, when you think about Bitcoin, no one has ever replicated Bitcoin on that scale yet. Like Ethereum came close, but it's crashed deep down now because of its validators, because of high fees, because of all the different things which went wrong.
Because they're trying to do different things of instead of being like proof of transaction, proof of stake or whatever, and then they're doing a lot of their stuff with building in smart contracts and all of that. So they're trying to be value add in a different sort of way. Like Bitcoin is still trying to be unique in terms of we're a store of value as the primary purpose. and then we're going to build transaction layers on top of it to be functional. It will fall apart because of that, because it's just not functional as a currency. Because you can't. So think about this. When you buy a house, are you paying cash for it, or are you getting a lending instrument to pay for it? So you're getting
Usually a
more.
lending instrument. You're not going to use your cash for it. Cash is better put somewhere else.
Is anybody going to lend you? So say you have,
Collateral.
you're going to have 10% of the Bitcoin, which is highly volatile. So you can't plan for what that value is going to be in 6 months' time. Is somebody going to lend you 10 times that amount to buy a piece of property? No, they're not. They're going to say, we'll lend you like 10% more to cover our risk, or we're going to charge you an insanely high interest rate for it.
Interest rate, yeah.
So a lot of currency is based around stability of the currency. And if you have like currency fluctuations too high, then you can't price the risk of a lending instrument. And that is absolutely like the fundamentals of the housing market. So like very few people are paying for cash, paying for a house in cash. They're paying for it with borrowed money. And to have borrowed money, you have to have a stable currency. So if you don't have a stable currency, you can't lend on it. This is why I don't think we're going to see Bitcoin become a currency so much. It's because we can't lend based on it. And there's no incentive to hold it if it's slow, if it's expensive to transact on, and that it's incredibly volatile.
It's also similarly that it's volatile against the dollar, like against fiat currency. But if you look at inter-crypto, so like Solana versus Bitcoin, the graphs aren't that volatile after all. Like if you're taking the dollar value out of it, like our brains think in dollar values. If you take it out, if you are able to put it aside, be like, this is a currency, Bitcoin, related to, you can think of that as gold. And Solana, it's a different currency. Think of that as the Australian dollar. Now, how much fluctuation do we have there? There's not much. Year to date, there might be in 4 months, it might be like a 20% change in comparison.
If you go back 20 years, then I was trading 100 to 1 4 pip foreign exchange. Being a 19-year-old finance student, thinking I'm doing these incredible things, trading at just gambling with foreign exchange and lending instruments, trading Google options at 2 a.m. on the US markets and things like that, and you're just understanding crazy amounts of leverage.
Exactly, 20x.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride thinking about currencies, stability of these things. Like if you track the gold price to house price, like you see interesting things. If you see gold
it
price
is so insane.
Yeah, but you see over very like I can show you pictures of the like gold bullion that I used to hoard. Yeah, no, that I used to hoard.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like this used to be one of my special interests as well, back in my finance days. Like, yeah, actually gold bullion, because we live so close to the Perth Mint. I could just walk there, buy and sell gold bullion to the direct market. It was really cool. But yeah, if you track gold price to house price and you see the multiples are very similar across generations compared to the currency
exponential
value. So if you see like a house price 50,000 back in 1970 and now it's like 2.3 million, but you see the gold price go from $180 per ounce, troy ounce, to like 3,000 at the moment or whatever, you see, it's actually held pretty stable. So the currency being debased because it's not linked to anything at all. It just keeps the Reserve Bank keeps
numbers.
It's just numbers, and keeps inflating to keep the velocity of money going. You start to see some really interesting things. But yeah, it's all units of account. And what is it? What is these units of account turning into for useful information? So if we really start to think about clinical documentation and things like that, you really start to reframe each of the interactions that you have with people, because you start to see long in advance of how is this going to impact on my funding recommendations for their end of plan review? How is this going to impact on my next planning meeting when we do our plan review in 6 months or 12 months time? What assessments are we doing at the moment to capture baseline and changes based on intervention? Right, lots of things that we start to see that were just transactions, it then becomes data. And the more that we can mobilize it, the faster we can pull those reports, and the more we can actually draw from them as well. So generative AI is a huge area, but it only covers a very small amount of what AI actually does. The big advances are going to be in retrieval augmented generation and what we can actually pass from different data sources. The more that we can mobilize it, the more that we can actually pull from them, and faster and more accurately. So you'll see the big difference between 3 years ago, when there were no AI tools for transcription, and doing a welcome meeting, and you're trying to concentrate on what everyone's saying, and you're taking occasional notes, and then trying to use your short-term memory to fill in the gaps afterwards when you do your documentation. Compared to now, using something like Heidi Health, it's recording every single word that you say. It's running it through with additional context of a fine-tuned language model of where it fits within each domain. And it's going to pull information that I heard that, but I didn't really listen to it because I was focusing on their body language at the time, or I was thinking about what I was going to have for lunch because this was an 11 a.m. meeting, and then I've got a 1 p.m. and like how long is it going to go for? Like those sorts of things, you start to see the value of AI. Really interesting stuff, right? What are your thoughts?
It is so cool. I love the way it's working. I can be present with the person. I can just be with you rather than be on my computer, rather than just, be making notes on the side. And you don't know what I'm doing. It causes more anxiety. I'm writing stuff, and you're like, oh, did I say something wrong? And then people modify behaviors, and then you may not get the information you need from them.
Yeah.
Or the information they were so eager to share, which has now gone back in. They're like, no, not doing that. They're going to write something. It's going to become a thing. But they're going to think of me in some way. I'm just not going to do it. I'm like, as a rapport building tool, it's such a massive feat. Like, we don't even think of these small things on a daily basis. It makes a massive difference. It takes clinical load out of us. It's using less phones, because then we're not worried about thinking. We're just more present on asking follow-up questions.
Yeah.
We're not being like, oh, this is an important thing, I'm going to put it in the back of my head because I need to write it up or ask more questions maybe next time. That's using up my brain space. And rather than that, I can just be present and actually prompt them in the moment. And if that leads to something amazing, that is what the goal is. That is why we are here. Similarly, that reduces our time before and after sessions. Like before session, I just need to make sure everything's up and running. I don't need to make sure I have 3 forms ready. I have my paper ready. I have my OneNote up and running. My laptop's charged. I don't need to do all those 10 things. I just need to have my device charged and make sure the software is ready to go. That's it. And after this session, it's going to transcribe. It's going to summarize. It's going to give me key points. It's going to give me not an analysis, but the transcription where I can use my clinical skills to analyze, rather than using my short-term memory, relying on my biases, which I may have picked something or not, and then be analyzing that data, which has already gone through my own biases.
So when people talk about the risks of generative AI and hallucinations, and then I talk to them about like, how much more are you hallucinating what happened based on your short-term memory compared to being able to record every word on the transcript? We've been watching on the screen the entire time. Every word is being picked up, and you're able to read what I just wrote, not just what I heard, what you heard, but you're able to read it each time as well. Like that is just beyond powerful of how much more present you can be in a moment. This is what excites me about what's happening with AI over the next few years, is that it's going to reduce the resistance to doing your role well. And it's going to have clinicians that are less burnt out, more present.
And when all of this is going to get integrated, like your welcome meeting, your case notes, your sessions, assessment results you put in, and all the data points when they're uploaded in, FCAs are going to be super easy. because you've got all this data. You just need to synthesize it into a story. And then your clinical judgment comes in. You read through it and you're like, yep, this makes sense. I'm going to write this inference about it. Yep, this is good. Nah, this doesn't really fit in well. I'm going to move this because AI is going to do it in the way it's trained.
Yeah.
And once you train it, being like, these are the edits I've made, and this is the reason why, you're training the AI model. And then the model's going to learn from that. It's going to give you better results for the next FCA.
Think about something think about something very powerful from a workflow perspective of we talked about 180 words per minute. How many people can type at more than 40 words a minute consistently when you're writing a 7,000 word functional assessment that's 30 pages long? I can talk my way through an FCA that can be transcribed and turned into the clinical sections each time so much faster. With maybe it might not make a difference for how long the FCA actually takes, and that's been consistent for a year or so now that we've been trying this. But the ability to talk through the FCA and have a speech to text version of it that is highly refined, is able to paraphrase into the format that you want based on a template and fine tuning and all sorts of things. I mean, I am verbally able to say what I want in each section faster than I can type, infinitely faster than I can type. So you might still be spending 12 hours on a functional assessment, but the spoon cost of doing that functional assessment using speech to text compared to typing the entire thing can be dramatically different.
And that is also making it more accessible for clinicians who've been like, no, FCA is not my cup of tea. And they're like, but they've got so much data. Like there's therapists who are so great at analyzing information and being able to capture it. But because FCA has the whole history of being one of the very intensest reports and being a massive report, leading to someone's funding and insurance, like it's such a massive accountability pressure on yourself. Like this is gonna shape what their life's gonna look like. This report, this report, I'm not even thinking of as a massive like step. I'm writing this 40-page report, but this is gonna be that person's life, like the funding they're gonna get, if they get PBS or not, if they get support or not, if they get community support or not. This is gonna shape what their next year or 2 years or 3 years, depending on the NDIS plan, it's gonna look like. And that is immense pressure. And there's some therapists who are great at analyzing and synthesizing this information, but they don't do it. They don't do FCS. They're like, no, not my cup of tea. But if we can make it more accessible by integrating something where you can just speak into a mic, it's like you're speaking to a colleague and you're just speaking your thoughts out. And that's able to record, generate, paraphrase, and plot some things for you, which you can go edit, rather than sitting on a blank document and trying to type something.
Yeah,
it's going to make massive changes.
So for so much of the
cool.
AI that's coming through, I just think about what are we doing to decrease the resistance to life with this stuff? Are we working in a way that's safe for us? That's we're able to do things in our way that we find with far less resistance to doing it another way. Like if our only tool that we had was being able to handwrite a functional assessment, that'd never get done. We have the tools available to do it safely with data security all built in now. Like these things have been sorted. Like we've solved that problem. Why aren't we using them? Like, yeah, like we really need to start considering like what tools that we have available and is this going to enhance our workflow? And are we going to be native to using it? Like the people who are adaptable to it, trial these things and find ways to implement it. Their ability to do their role with less resistance, less spoon cost, means there's going to be less burnt out clinicians, and people are going to have like more present clinicians who can do a better job. Like if that's the only difference that it makes, it doesn't mean that we're doing more billable hours. Over 5 years, they're doing more billable hours because they're not taking time off work for sick leave or taking extended holidays. I mean, that to me is the benefit.
Yeah. And they don't want to leave it. They don't want to leave the job. They don't just want to be like, no, not working for me. I'm going to go look for something else in life.
And that's going to start happening more and more. The more clinicians who start using this stuff, they're going to start choosing their employer based on what tools they're going to be supplied with. So if you go into a therapy practice where you go, oh, sorry, you have to be in the office 5 days a week, and for all of your functional assessments, you're also going to have a supervisor watch you while you're doing it and have to go through them, and you're only going to be able to do it in the office. We're not going to have an ability to work from home because we can't secure the data because we're not cloud-based. All these sorts of things. You're creating like resistance points along the way routinely to being able to do your job. Other people come in, super you, what I'm doing with Estes, where we're decreasing that resistance.
Mm.
And we're going, we can like get this work done in a way that's more suited to the clinician and their work style.
Yeah, for sure.
And why aren't we doing it? It's just because we didn't spend the time on solving the data silo issues and sorting out like document control and things like that. If that was the barrier to it, we're not implementing AI because we didn't spend the time on setting the system up right. Then it goes back to the whole thing of, is it a clinician's problem or is it like the environment that they're not suited to?
For sure. In my head, I'm visualizing what I'm at this stage. I'm like, for my caseload, 30 clients, I would like to have 30 different tabs. Every tab is my notes from the session, my case notes for that session, my thoughts for that session. And that's one tab for one client, 30 of those. And then 50 to 26 sessions across the year. My welcome meeting, my assessment results. And when I need to synthesize, I'm like, click a button.
So one of the things that
Just
cool things
read
about
through
being
it.
able to work through Google Workspace Enterprise is that we can all load it into Notebook LM, and we can generate on the fly podcasts about that person or mind maps across all of the different information on there. We can select and choose every single one of the transcriptions and the case notes and the assessment data and run inference on it at any one time. So the ability to pass information over a year's worth of information with ease is remarkable. And being able to work from Google Workspace in those terms, it's immense.
It's wild. Like we have all these tools, they're out there. It's integrating into our practice, which is the resistance point at this stage, because we've had this system for the last like 10 years. Updating that, it's going to be more monetary, like it's going to cost money, it's going to cost time, it's going to cost training hours. They're like, oh, we can't really afford that. But then where's the longevity? Like other companies are doing it. Next 5 years, you're going to be a dinosaur. You're not going to exist if you
Yeah.
continue down the way you are.
You think about the hospitals that still have paper-based records.
It's wild.
Yeah. Anyway, I've got my session starting at 11 today.
Yes, no
We've got to
stress.
wrap this up.
Yes, no. Thank you for
We've been
all the
going for an hour and a
information you
half
put
already,
on.
man.
Yeah, I
And this
know.
could very easily be a 3-hour podcast. We're turning into our own Joe Rogan experience.
Got to have a third person on now.
Yeah, where's Jamie? Yeah. All right, so we'll wrap this up. I'll send you over the recording for
Sounds
it.
like a
You
plan.
can chop it up. You can do whatever you want with it onto the OT and Yap, and the special interest podcast channel will host it as well, and we'll do some cool stuff.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, I'll
Cheers.
catch
Thank
you
you
later,
so
man.
much for hopping on. Catch
See ya.
you.